Welcome, everybody.
We have
to the YouTube part of the special content that we offer YouTube from our podcast.
And tonight's extra special content is El Presidente himself of the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, Randy Prasse, and Double O Kate.
Woo! The coolest one here.
Oh my God, the coolness is just right out of the fucking screen already. It's just like, holy shit. It's like, I'm speechless, and that's something.
That never happens.
That is something.
I'm never that awe-inspired. Maybe I should. Yes, Kate.
Yes, you should, because there's so many different things we can cover with that. I mean, last year when the festival, right, we were down there, right, and we meet, you know, you're doing your thing on, especially after dealing with all the stuff you had to deal with the rain and everything, and that, how you were coming through in that aspect. But we see Kate at the Bourbon in the Air, and she's right there, and we're talking, and she's kind of talking, and she starts talking with us, and it just was like, you had a certain aspect of just trying to make things go, but you know, this is the first year of that you put the real festival on, you know, in person kind of thing. So there was definitely like this vibe about you where it's like, hi, Randy, I'm going to stay the hell away from you. Because you need to concentrate. But so all of a sudden Kate's there, and it's just like, she just, for the both of you, just made everything kind of like back off, relax, and, you know, came up, gave us hugs, and all of a sudden started talking with Roxy. And I mean, it was just, she had that part under control, even though you could see underneath, she was definitely thinking about you and what the hell you were going through.
Yeah, I gotta believe that you got tired just worrying about what you were going to worry about. You know, I mean, with all the details for something like that we who have never done that can't begin to imagine.
Well, I've been doing this 31 years, not the Bourbon Festival, but festivals. So I get into that mode, at festival mode, I call it, and it's like intensity. And then opening night is intense. And Kate, this is like really her first time going through that, and she saw all of the backstory, you know, behind everything, every single day, every decision, everything that we're going through to get this festival off the ground. Because I mean, we dodged bullets up until the minute we opened the gates and throughout the festival. So
not only off the ground, but to stay above water with that 6-inch rainfall the day before the opening event.
Biblical is literal. I mean, we had 6 inches of rain in 2.5 hours the day before we opened, and the drain from the parking lot above us went right down through the main event tent, right down through the middle of the festival. You know, it was just, and there was a current that we were dealing with. So yes, I mean, everything that you could throw at us, you threw at us, and we survived. So
you sure did.
And here we are for the second round it's the 31-year festival, but it's the second year of the new model. So it's still very young feeling.
Well, what I get is that the festival, you know, you planned the crap out of it. There's no doubt. And you've got all these parts, and they're all going to come together at the festival. You got to kind of bring them together because there's so many different parts. But once they're together, they all are moving. And it's just like, if you don't keep track and stay on top of all the moving parts, but that's your talent. I mean, at no point at the festival when we were there did I feel like the clock was coming apart because the parts were moving against each other. I felt like they were trying to do that a lot to you, but overall, it seems just after watching you run that festival and knowing about the festivals that you've run in the past, and it just seems like that's where that's the true aspect of your talents, of when all those parts start moving, and there's a lot of them, you know, it's not the distilleries, it's just not, you know, all the events, it's just not, there's the people, and you know, then how drunk are the people getting? I mean, that's all right there. So your security aspect that you've done and the festival thing, and it's all, and basically every single badge that you have is lit up for those couple days, right?
Yeah.
And you know the fun thing, we had 0 arrests.
That's outstanding.
A 3-day whiskey festival and no arrests. And
Well, that
the police department and the city, the mayor's office, all 3 told us that it was the best run bourbon festival that they'd ever seen in their 30 years of us having it. So
Congratulations.
well,
thank you.
I think it's kind of because you ran a bourbon festival, because you ran in a bourbon enthusiast and festival, whereas where you get into some trouble is the people who are coming in and they might not just be they're just there to get drunk. You know,
and that's a very important part of it, because we were worried about that the first year of actually having the pours directly from the distilleries, and we worried about that. But I just kept thinking that these are enthusiasts, even if they only paid a little bit to get in the gate, they're going to be there and police each other. The groups were coming in, they had a designated driver in the group, and I had friends of mine that came from Texas, and I had friends from Wisconsin, and that's what they did. Each night there was a different designated driver, and then the rest of them got to have some fun, but it still wasn't like babysitting. It wasn't like me at the Luca Mariano barrel pick last year, put it that way.
well, but you weren't babysitting, but Double O Kate, myself, Roxy, we were looking out for you.
Yeah,
There's no doubt. We were
babysitting
looking
you.
out. So, everybody has their time. Like Aaron Conkle, who's part of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, and he came down, he was on our bus tour. That bourbon in the night, bourbon in the air, that night just burned him. He should have been arrested. But we policed but his friend got him home, got him back to the place. I saw him on Saturday morning. Or it was Friday morning, right? Because did it start on that was Thursday night, right?
That's Thursday night.
Yeah, Friday morning. He just looked like he just got run over by a truck. But but
we didn't have any problems. Everybody kind of watched,
Mhm.
and everybody was a licensed, certified bartender. The different distilleries. I mean, the responsibility. I mean, all joking aside, that is something that we ID'd everybody. You had to be 21 to buy a ticket. You had to be 21 to get in the event, and they had the right to secondary ID check at each of the distilleries. So I mean, all joking aside, I mean, people had a good time. Don't get me wrong; it's a whiskey event, but they kept within the boundaries. So
okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was surprised, and I mentioned it to Jeff a couple times. I'm like, wow, everybody is like really well behaved, and
Everyone was happy to
people
be
just
there.
stumbling around all over the place, and
Yeah.
it really made for it was classy. It was classy.
But Jeffrey, you were talking about all the multitasking. I kept, as you were talking, and thank you, it's very humbling. It's very kind of you to say, but I was envisioning the old, like the Gong Show or Tonight Show, the guy that had all the sticks with the plates spinning, and he had to keep going until the
Yeah.
plates fall off. I mean,
Spinning
that's
plates
really a
around,
lot of
yeah.
fun to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly, there's no doubt just how to watch you, because we met the year before and we had so much in common, both of us growing up in Wisconsin and just overall. And then, you got into this, and as far as where you are with your bourbon knowledge and experience now, you were more hired for your knowledge of festivals and running festivals and people, not so much that you were like a bourbon kind of, you like beer too. You're from Wisconsin. I mean,
It's a
and you
requirement.
still enjoy that. But when you got hired, when we started talking, I was that's the first thing I said to you. Based off of what you were doing, I could see that the past, how it was done,
Yep.
and what you were trying to do, you were doing something from the festival part of it, but you also were trying to give, and it was like an outsider aspect without realizing, how everything had gone completely in the past. And that perspective was really good towards getting the bourbon connoisseur, the people who enjoy, bourbon and that type of thing. And then I could see that going, and I just knew that if I could just get it through to you, how unbelievably cool this is going to be as you keep successfully doing this, that you're like actually putting your mark on. I mean, I don't even think, I honestly don't think that, like, because you ran the Kentucky Derby for how many years? 3?
Mhm.
Right? And I don't know if everybody, the president, now when you were running the Derby, what was your title there?
I was senior director of operations. So basically all of admissions and parking, and then anything that's temporary for Derby week, I built. So if you go there anytime during the year, all the permanent buildings, that's not me, but all the temporary, the tents and the sponsors and the suites on the infield and that started, 1st of March, the build started, and then it took us a month after the Derby to get it all torn down and moved out. So this is a light lift compared to that.
But as far as your place in like history, there's not a lot of people who are going to remember the heavy load you were doing at the Kentucky Derby, but
You're right.
there's going to be a lot of you're going down in the history.
If you
book.
think people at a whiskey festival are going to remember you, you got nothing coming. They're going to be lucky if they remember they were there.
No,
No,
but it's gonna, you're documented. You're putting
know.
your name, just like
Exactly.
you're right there with, that's where the Bourbon Hall of Fame and people get put into those, and everybody that you meet, and you're part of that now.
Absolutely.
And you're just,
Yeah, I know.
you're upholding it. And at first I'm telling you this and you're just going, man, this guy's full of shit.
No, you definitely, it was a history turned a corner with what you did last year, and it's going to continue moving.
Well,
and
and listen, I mean, and thank you for that. And what it really came down to, when I came in here 2.5 years ago, the board told me why we needed to change the festival. And I mean, no disrespect to anybody that had run this for 28, 29 years before I came in. There were a lot of limitations and a lot of laws that have changed in recent years that allow us to do what we're doing now. That it wasn't like, oh my God, I can't believe you couldn't get whiskey samples at the Bourbon Festival, because the law didn't allow it until 2019. So, and then 2020 was going to be the first year of doing like the neat pours, and then COVID canceled us down. But we still made some, cool the virtual piece. But
it sure did.
I mean, they had compiled all the feedback from the distilleries and from the bourbon enthusiasts that said, you're missing the mark. You're no longer relevant to us. Distilleries were withdrawing. Customers were losing interest because we were just out of sync. So that was why they hired Randy. And I came in and kind of said, this is how we're going to do it. And we're going to deconstruct everything. There's nothing that's sacred. The one piece that was really sacred that it continues to be is the barrel relay. The World Championship barrel relay features all the distillery teams. That's sacred. A lot of investment in that. But other than that, there's very little that carried over from 2019 to the 2021 event.
I would agree.
But that was by design. And unfortunately, in kind of I had to be desensitized to all that heritage and all the passion and all that the community put into it, because the community and all of those things were kind of what was causing it to miss the mark. When I was doing tours and branding, I always said the number one killer of a community's brand is the community itself, because they don't know. They think they know who they are, but they don't know how to message it. And that's kind of what was going on with the Bourbon Festival. They were kind of keep it like what it used to be when Jimmy and Fred would sit around and drink each other's whiskey and tell stories, and that was all great. But in those 30 years, you had 20 different festivals pop up that are trying to feature bourbon and get into our space. So I kind of had to get in and redefine and plant our flag a little deeper and kind of take back that space. You picture dogs eating out of the dog bowl. I mean, we were the big dog, but our head was getting squeezed out by all these little dogs. So I had to come back in and clear it out and kind of retake our space. So, but that was the board. I mean, I have all distilleries on my board and a lot of industry folks that gave me that backbone. So even when I was getting a lot of heat for some of these changes, I mean, change is difficult, they told me to stay the course. Bill Samuels would call us and tell us, I know it's rough. I know you're getting a lot of flack. Keep the course. You're doing absolutely what you need to do. And all of the distilleries after the festival came to me and said, you put in front of us exactly the type of people we need. We have the loyal fans, and you got the new bourbon consumers that are going to be the future. And so I had to focus on that. I had to get away from all of the heartstrings connections to the community, as cold as it sounds in this sense. But I mean, that's what we had to do. Otherwise, the festival is gone. I mean, I told people, if we keep doing it the way we've been doing it, the way you love it, with the beer garden and the bouncy houses and the face painting and the straw bales, in a matter of 5 years, you wouldn't have any distilleries here anymore. And then what do you have? So in a roundabout way, what we're doing is prolonging this and redefining it and giving it new legs and new strength. And we're up over 40 distilleries now.
Wow.
The best
Yep.
best it had in years past was 11, and now we have 40, and half of them are craft distilleries who never were included. So, I mean, start doing the math. I mean, we're including anybody who wants to be here. They can be here. We'll figure out a way to get them in, and the consumers love that because they're discovering new brands and revisiting some of their favorite the heritage brands that are out there. But you pushed me. I mean, I used to get kind of embarrassed early on. Now I laugh about it, but the fanboy in you. But you kept reminding me. You kept reminding me how cool it was what we were doing, and at a time where sometimes it was just we're slugging it out. I mean, it's not always fun, but you always reminded me, that look in the mirror. I got a pretty cool gig here.
Oh, fantastic!
And
Yeah.
you keep making the gig better. I mean, honestly, what there wasn't the and we're going to get started real quick with the regular podcast. I think that was perfect, but there was no barrel selection program. Now there couldn't be, because at one point you could sell no bottles there, right? So that's kind of changed, but we never have. But we've never been able to until last year. Right. But you took advantage of that. It was a rough job, but someone has to do it, tasting all those barrels and getting it into and organizing all the people who are going to be helping you get those barrels to the festival. And I mean, this year's got its own challenges, as also, it might not just be the barrel, but there's just shortages of everything everywhere. How deep do you want to dive into the single barrel program and that experience? Because I'll be honest, even when I was here in Louisville working at Churchill, I never heard of a single barrel. I didn't know what a barrel pick was. I mean, I stood in Travis Hill from Justin's House of Bourbon. I stood in his garage one rainy Saturday morning after we'd already been in COVID, and I just said, "What's this barrel pick that I always hear about? And do you think distilleries would work with us?" And he's like, "Oh my God, yes, you're the Kentucky Bourbon Festival." And I'm like, "We never have, And I started with Maker's Mark. Bill Samuels donated the first barrel, and then we started our program that was last year with 10. Yeah. I mean, Bill Samuels.
Oh, is that it?
Bill has been long kicking Bardstown in the butt, saying, if you're going to call yourself the bourbon capital of the world, well, you damn well better act like it. And he continues to do that. And so I spent a couple minutes with him one day, and the next day, Thomas Bolton, the brand ambassador, called me and said, "I don't know what you said to the old man yesterday, but he's all fired up now about the Bourbon Festival and wants to donate a barrel." And that's where it started. The first bottle was Maker's, and we ended up with 10 of them last year total, and now we're at 20. So
great.
So before we're going to start after I make this statement, Randy, honestly, you get people fired up as far as excited, because you have that kind of a personality that you throw yourself into it and you believe in what you're doing. Just like when I see you in your bow tie and your suit for the Kentucky Derby that you've done, you post those pictures, you could tell you 100% enjoy, as much as everybody else, the putting on the festival. Now, during the festival, you didn't look like you enjoyed any bit of that festival as far as enjoyment. It was after the festival that you need to take a big break. But all right, so but like I'm going to enjoy it this year, though. Well, let's cross our fingers. Let's hope that some of the stuff, and we'll talk about that once we get this started, that smooths out a little bit, make sure that everything's, but let's that was wonderful. That's the YouTube extra, everybody. We're going to get started with the actual audio podcast.
And now the podcast.
And when I push this button, we're going to have a 30-second recording that I can hear. we pretty much can do whatever because I put the voiceover. No, we can't because we have to be quiet for the actual audio podcast, not for the. Okay, here we go.
Dant Crossing, Gethsemane, Kentucky. Timeless hospitality that stirs the spirit. Dant Crossing is a one-of-a-kind destination for unforgettable weddings, memorable corporate events, day trips, and weekend getaways. The pastoral campus is anchored by Log Still Distillery and includes an amphitheater that seats 2,000, a 12-acre lake for fishing and unique lodging options, creating an immersive experience that's rooted in the community and culture of our little slice of Kentucky. More attractions will open soon at Dant Crossing, including our 21,000 square foot distillery, which we will have the ability to produce 15,000 barrels of spirit each year, a network of wooded walking trails, fully functional private train depot, farm-to-table restaurant, and the Legacy, a premier wedding and events venue. Whether you're looking to host an event, book a stay, or reserve a tasting, we're ready to welcome you. Learn more at dantcrossing.com.
Spirits of French Lick is proud to introduce the Maddie Gladden Bottled and Bond Bourbon. This 4-year aged bourbon is double pot distilled and non-chill filtered and has a full-bodied mouthfeel with eucalyptus, molasses, clove, ginger, and slight citrus as well as grains of paradise. The finish is long and reappearing on the back of the tongue with notes of pepper, tobacco leaf, and mint green. All of our spirits are available for tasting and purchase inside the French Lick Winery and Distillery. Spirits of French Lick. Respect the grain, please enjoy responsibly, and be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
Oh, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. For if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you, I tell you, I tell you we must die.
All right, everybody, welcome to another exciting podcast of the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. I am Tiny. This is Roxy. This is Xavier. And we have two very special guests, El Presidente, Randy Prasse of the the Kentucky Bourbon Festival and the Scotchy Bourbon Boys. And yes, there you go. And Double O Kate. Welcome to the podcast. Are you guys there?
We're here.
All of a sudden, it's just like nothing. It's just like, oh, you guys did that really well.
You were talking. So I didn't want to talk over you. So I figure we'll get into about the 7-minute mark and then I'll actually be able to say something.
Yeah. At least I didn't stumble.
Other than renaming the Bourbon Festival, you did fine.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, I am a Scotchy Bourbon boy and I do have the glass.
Well, you're the president of Kentucky Bourbon Festival.
The problem with this picture is he's holding a glass of bourbon and we're not.
Yeah,
well, you're the one that's not handing out the glasses.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you're going to fix that right now.
So what we're drinking tonight to celebrate having Randy and Kate on is we are drinking what we've got. We're going to be drinking 3 of the 4 last year picks.
Randy's those picks.
No,
picks of what?
These are the picks that Randy organized for. Yes, and my bottle is were all the bottles that were for sale at Justin's, were they all autographed?
No, just the ones that were at the festival.
Just the ones, so all the ones that we purchased at that, they were autographed, right?
Correct.
So that was pretty awesome that they were autographed. That was pretty.
And that's from the barrel that Bill Samuels donated. So That's the barrel, that's the bottle that started the whole program. So cheers to Bill and Rob and everybody at Makers.
Yes.
All right, cheers.
So this program it was new last year, and I really thought because you let the Scotchy Bourbon Boys be a part of that program, we were very honored. Me and Roxy came down to do the pick at the Kentucky Bourbon Festival offices with Freddie No and then Steve Coombs and you and both Justins were there, and then I think Steve Coombs's friend was there. She
From
was
Alaska.
Yes.
Alaska, yeah.
From Alaska, and that was really cool. Freddie led us through that pick. I thought he did a fantastic job. I mean, for my first barrel pick, it was just so exciting. And then the extra stuff he brought, and then we did the Luca Mariano pick with you, which we do have here, and that's shout out to Jennifer tonight when
Hi, Jennifer.
when I put it out there that and she saw the preview of the podcast. Yep. It's awesome.
We love us some Jen.
Oh God. She's a wonderful spokesperson, and she's
Sure
just
is.
so, what would you say, perfect for the industry. I mean, she just fits in it so well as far as moving around and all the move. She kind of her and Kenny's been going around, and they go on they've been every
Road warriors.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what they're doing exactly what you have to do when you introduce a new brand. And then you saw that just this past week, they put their first barrel, they rolled it over from Wilderness Trail and stuck it into their brand new rick house. So that's pretty damn exciting.
Mhm.
And we were just, there, and we're actually doing a Wilderness Trail pick on Thursday. So if you have nothing better to do.
Oh, I don't. So, so if that's official, you just might have me there. I mean, we'll talk after. I mean, but so this year, the barrel program is just going hot and heavy right now. You're just getting into that now. Talk about some of the challenges you're running into this year compared to last year, just by the way the overall market and everything that's going on. You're running into a lot of different kind of challenges than what you were doing last year.
Are you speaking of the barrels specifically, that program?
Well, yeah, the barrels for the festival, but you have to pick them all. But then all of a sudden, there's all these hurdles you're coming up with where it takes longer to get the barrel bottled. Correct? That's one of the reasons why I was down there last.
Supply chain.
Yeah,
it's supply chain. It's glass. It's bottle shortages, and every distillery has their own unique, iconic bottle shape, and it's as important to the brand as the juice that's in the bottle. So we've missed out on a few. We've had a few that were with us last year that just either are suspending their program until they can get caught up with supplies, and we've missed out on them for this year. So but for everyone that's dropped, we've replaced them with 3. So we've gone from 10 partners last year to where we have 20 this year, and we'll actually end up with 22 barrels because we're doing 2 with Kentucky Peerless. We're doing a rye for the barbecue event that we're doing in June, and we're doing a bourbon single barrel for the Bourbon Festival, and then Knob Creek is actually, we've done 3 barrels with them. So we're doing 1 for the barbecue event, we're doing 1 for the Bourbon Festival through Justin's, and they donated a barrel also. So we've got 3 separate Knob Creek barrels that we picked with Freddie. So that's been fun.
So that part's awesome. Just to divert, let's talk about how those barrels and how they're gonna fit into the Bourbon Barbecue Festival. How is that? I was there last year, saw the bottle shop, waited in line, got what I wanted and everything. But what's gonna be happening this year at that the barbecue?
Yeah, and let's clarify that for the listeners. This is the barbecue festival that is going to take place June 9th, 10th, and 11th.
10th, is it 10th and
10th
11th?
and 11th.
10th and 11th.
We're going to be there.
And we're going to be there. So we're going to be there on the 9th with nothing to do. We'll be twiddling our
Nothing to do.
There's never nothing to do.
No.
Thanks for the warning.
I know.
Thanks for the warning. We'll let the Nelson County Sheriff's Department know you're coming.
There you go. Oh boy.
Oh, thanks.
Exactly. And then, so this is an early event as compared to the festival proper, which is
Right.
the week of September 11th.
Right. So the barbecue event actually came off of a Beam event that they did for years, that they did a distillery invitational. They would invite the other distilleries to have cook teams, and they go out to Claremont and have a little cook-off, totally unofficial, wasn't promoted. If you happen to be a visitor that day to the Beam campus, you came upon that that whole thing. So they suspended it because the construction and their planning, and then COVID. But I learned after the fact that they always intended that to be a KBF event. So Steve Coombs and you mentioned Steve earlier. Steve and I were talking about how well bourbons pair with all foods, but mainly barbecue. So we started riffing on that, and then we found out that Beam did this, so we pulled it out and we got their 3-ring binder of records. So this June will be the inaugural run at it, and it's in conjunction with National Bourbon Day. So Bardstown, of all the places, the bourbon capital of the world, really promotes and really celebrates National Bourbon Day. The distilleries as well as the workers. So we're doing this as kind of an ode to the food pairing. It's a first-year event. We're partnered and sanctioned by the Kansas City Bourbon Barbecue Society. Sorry, and so yeah, I mean, Steve says nothing goes better with barbecue than a rye. So with this barbecue event, we've got a little bit more latitude that we can do ryes. We don't have to be just stuck in the bourbon silo. So Kentucky Peerless, Cordell Lawrence is on our board of directors now and representing the craft distillery. So he came up with a special rye barrel for us, and now we're doing a second barrel of bourbon whiskey here shortly for the main festival. But it's a first year event. I mean, I think we're doing 1,000 tickets, small. We've got 20 professional cook teams. We've got 10 distilleries that are doing competitive, on Friday. So like the barrel relay at the Bourbon Festival showcases the workers in the warehouse that practice all year round to do the barrel relay. We've got these distilleries that are putting together 4-person cook teams to come out on Friday. And then Saturday will be the professional KCBS cook teams that travel all over the country. So we've got a couple of past regional and national champions that are going to be out there on Saturday doing that too. So And that really is geared towards the family. I mean, last year we had to make changes to the main bourbon festival. I got rid of the bouncy houses, and the beer garden was kind of words we didn't utter because it was all about the bourbon. So this event gives us that latitude where we can do more family friendly things. In the future we'll be doing fireworks and a car show and those kind of things. So I mean, it really is going to be a family and a community event eventually. But year one, we're not looking too bad.
Interesting.
So one of the nice things about this is that it's an inaugural event, but last year you already were planning, and if I remember correctly, on bourbon it's National Bourbon Day.
June 14th.
You guys basically that weekend announced that this would be next year. So it kind of got everybody excited, and it's not just like it just got dropped on everybody. Everybody's had a chance to learn about it and get down there, and you can tell that's kind of how you would want, that's your envisionment of how you would start a festival, from like you are pretty much the festival itself organized from scratch, because
right.
Initially the Kansas City Barbecue, they weren't involved with this ever before. You kind of pulled them in so that it was an official barbecue event, and you have worldwide or nationwide barbecue people competing like they do at all the different state fairs and everything, right? That's the tour, correct?
Yeah, but I mean, it's always about the whiskey first. So even though this barbecue event is featuring the barbecue and the pairing between barbecue and the whiskey, it's always whiskey first, and it's never intended to overshadow the main festival. It's a teaser to get people in. It's a way for us to showcase one other way these distilleries. So I've got 14 distilleries that are going to be there sampling like you would experience at the Bourbon Festival. So you'll have a consumer trade show floor that you'll be able to go distillery to distillery and be able to get samples and buy shirts and things like that. So, and of course, Beam is there, Maker's Mark is there, but we've got like Rabbit Hole, Kentucky Peerless. So, Lux Row is jumping in with a cook team. So it's kind of cool that way that the brands see us as working hard to showcase them. And we're not building these mega festivals that are just too overpowering to try to even staff. So we're building these small little boutique events that really showcase them. But the June barbecue event is definitely intended to showcase and tease and kind of tee up the main bourbon festival. So we will never let any event that we do overshadow the main event in September. I mean, that's just not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to take over the world, but we're trying to make sure we're doing that everything right.
Well, and like you said, there's a local aspect of it that now that some of what the Kentucky Bourbon Festival has removed, some of that's being put back into it because the distilleries and the people in their families and everything, they're competing and barbecuing and doing everything. And it's more so to bring, that part of the community back into it. Whereas then when you go to the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, it's more, like you said, it's for the enthusiast, the connoisseur, and it's throughout, and the main whiskey drinkers of this country are not the connoisseurs. The connoisseurs are kind of a select group that are purchasing.
Exactly.
Yes, you are. I feel honored to have one or two connoisseurs coming to our festival.
Yeah, one or two, just that. No, but I mean,
You're right.
I mean, people who just drink Jim Beam, that they go there and they either daily or their weekly bottle or whatever, they're committed to just that. And those type of people, initially I thought it was different, but they make up
they're the prime mover of the
they're
industry.
the people that keep keep those companies in business so they can produce the high end juice that
generations of loyal white label consumers or yellow label consumers but a world-class event, which is what we're building here, targeted at the whiskey, the people who make it, and the people who enjoy it. But we're not doing snobby. It's not a pretentious environment. It shouldn't be intimidating. If you're enthusiastic about bourbon, you have a place here. So it's not priced or marketed to try to exclude anyone. I don't get out of bed every morning to go to work and give everything I have to create an event that excludes people. It's very niche. I've run a state fair that anybody can go to. The Wisconsin State Fair, we've talked about this off, but during the 2008 and 2009 recession, I had kind of a group meeting with my senior director staff and said, look, for the next couple of years, we're going to be Disney for a lot of people. People aren't going to be able to drive and they're not going to fly to Orlando. They're not going to be able to afford Mickey Mouse and everything. So we've got to step up our game and make sure we're delivering the best experience, because for these kids, these families, for that 1 or 2 summers, this is it. The Wisconsin State Fair has got to step up. So, I'm always very sensitive to making sure that it's affordable if you choose to, pursue that. But it can't be for everybody. It's got to be targeted to the people that really, because the distilleries, at the end of the day, it's about the distilleries. I had a lot of people last year that were on social media saying, here we go again. It's all about distilleries, blah, blah, blah. And, having my experience with Churchill Downs, I've always said, and my boss called it out and said, look, the most important people at Churchill Downs are the horsemen. They're on the backside in the barns. You never see them. But without 20 horses in that starting gate, you don't have a Kentucky Derby. Doesn't matter all the fanfare and the hats and all the sponsorship and ticket sales and the millions and millions of dollars. You've got nothing if you don't have those 20 horses in the starting gate. And for us, our horses in the starting gate are the distilleries there on the lawn. So, the world does revolve in this situation around those people who make the whiskey. So, Steve Coombs reminds me of that every single day, and it's good. It just drill it in. There's a lot of nice things. There's a lot of fun things. Would I love to have fireworks? Sure. Hot air balloons, all those kind of things are really nice to have. But if it doesn't have anything to do with the industry specifically, then we can't do it at the Bourbon Festival. That's why we have a little bit more latitude with the barbecue event.
Yeah, you know, our first festival was the 2019 festival that we all went down for Kentucky Bourbon Festival. And it was a blast. We had a great time. You know, most of our bourbon experiences though were those higher paid events that
Exactly.
we spent a lot of money, you know, to go to. And
Urban Scars and Jazz and those kind of
yes,
things.
and you know, and the gala and all that. And afterwards, I said, you know, Jeff and I were talking about it, and I said, you know, just from the regular festival area where everybody could be, there needed to be more bourbon. Like there was,
Right.
there wasn't enough bourbon.
You got thirsty.
Drink bourbon. You couldn't drink bourbon whiskey at the bourbon festival, at the actual event. And again, that was a law that was changed over the last couple of years. So now you can come and get that. But you're right. I mean, you come to Bardstown, the bourbon capital of the world, you go to the festival, and there's a beer garden and a stage and bouncy houses, and you could buy t-shirts and hats from the distilleries, but you couldn't actually get the whiskey from them. So fast forward now to 21, and then this year 22, the world has changed, and you know, we've got a really cool lineup of things that we're going to be able to do again this year that's new, that we improved on even from last year. So
awesome.
Well,
Yeah, so what are some of those new things?
well, wait. But what you did, Randy, last year with the festival, now 2019, when we were in the VIP, we were able to get the pour up in the lounge and take it out for the first time. That was the first year you could take it out on the ground,
Container.
have it. But what you did was took those high-end events where it was about the distilleries. That's what that gala. You got to meet Jimmy Russell. You got to meet Fred No. You got to meet Freddie. We had done a bunch of stuff. We went to the No family dinner, and then saw them there and kind of partied that night. But you basically took all those events, and instead of having them private events off site, you took 3 days and made all those events right there on site part of the festival instead of separate from the festival. And that was a huge key.
And that was two-part. A little bit, it started with the distilleries not feeling comfortable producing those events because of COVID. So credit due, it was safety, small events or no events. Visitor centers were closed. So that was part of it. But when I started, the board said, we can't have all of these events all over town. It can't be, we have to bring it in. So, I mean, we basically took those events and brought it in, and we're building the core event. Now this year, and we'll get into this when we start talking about hours of operation and so forth, but we're building the festival to be able to allow those distilleries to produce those evening events, to allow our guests to come in and have a really cool experience, but also to go out and do tours and to dine and shop in the community. Because at the end of the day, it's about whiskey, but it's also about tourism promotion and driving. You know, it's an economic driver.
Yeah.
You know, that weekend in Bardstown is Black Friday. I mean, it's Christmas shopping for them. So these retailers count a lot on what we're bringing into town. So we don't want to monopolize them. You know, I mean, it'd be greedy to try to keep people there all day and not let them go anywhere else. So we're actually doing the opposite. We're trying to encourage people. You know, every one of those distilleries that have invested millions in the last couple of years on their visitor experience, restaurants and tour centers and gift shops. So we're not doing them a service if we bring them in and just keep them at the festival. We need to bring them in, give them that experience, and then breathe them back out into the community. And I've seen it happen over and over again in other communities, and it works. So that's what we're going to try this year.
Okay.
Last year's festival was obviously, by anybody's measurement, a smashing success for Bourbon Festival, for yourself, for everybody involved. There were, you know, and I want to address this so people know that how you're handling this. Some people might have had some issues with the ticketing, getting in at the gate, that sort of thing. Those are the kind of things that are pretty normal when you make a major change. But if you're that person that's ends up standing in line for hours or doesn't get a ticket or whatever, it's not real normal for them. How are you addressing that for this year's Bourbon Fest?
Well, and we're overly critical. I beat myself up a lot because, and thank you for your kind words at the beginning. And I liken it to a Broadway show, opening night of a Broadway show. The people out in the audience are standing up and, you know, standing ovation, but you peel that curtain back and the other curtain back, and you start seeing what's going on behind there, you'd see a lot of blemishes and a lot of things that, whew, we fooled them. You know, we got away with one. So thank you for that. But you know, we immediately knew there were things that had to be changed. The weights at the front gate. Now keep in mind that even though this event was 30 years old, it was the first year that we had an admission and we had a perimeter. So the perimeter was planned for 2020 when we had COVID. We had to, if 2 people came out, we could let 2 people in. We had capacity issues. So if you waited in line at Home Depot or Lowe's and they had the line outside, and as people would do their shopping and leave, they could let more people in because they're only allowed to have 100 people at a time. So that was our original concern, and our model was to manage that flow. So we fast forward, we get into 2020, and with the perimeter, you know, we used a ticketing program that I'd used at smaller craft beer festivals of, you know, 1,500, 2,000 people, that, you know, we had a VIP and we had a general admission, and that was it. So last year we had 5 or 6 different VIP options. We had 5 or 6 different general admission, single day, any single day Friday only. And then we had 3-day tickets. And, you know, it was just beyond the capacity of our little phone scanners to scan QR codes. And it was problematic. And, you know, unfortunately, we didn't realize, we did testing, but it was not until we opened the gates on Friday that was a problem. Love the rabbit hole, the Mad Hatter.
Yes, that was it's a good one.
So this year, if anybody has stood at a festival or a major event and you wait in line, it's frustrating. If you wait in line for more than 10 minutes, it's frustrating. Kate would remember. I mean, Kentucky Derby, my first Derby, there was a 90-minute wait to get in because people that weren't directly involved in the operational side of things were making decisions, and it just didn't work. So we stayed up all night. I had an hour of sleep, and we came back on Derby day, and it worked and it improved. But so it's constantly, I mean, the Derby, it was 142 years old at that point. So there's still, you're learning and you're adapting every year. So what we did this year to improve on last year is, number one, we're simplifying our ticketing options, and we can talk about that in a minute. And we're going to full RFID wristbands. So you will get your wristband in the mail before the event. So you buy your tickets, we'll fulfill it. You'll get your wristbands. You put your wristband on. You'll activate it on your computer before you even come to the festival, and you'll scan. Boop, green light, and we'll just churn. We'll get people through. And there'll be an exit lane. So, you know, for marketing purposes, we'll know. Okay, you 3 were there for 2 hours. You left, and you came back an hour and a half later. You know, so I mean, it's a little creepy. We'll track you a little bit, but we need to understand who are there, how long you're there. But mainly it's to speed things up. And then if you go to VIP, that same wristband, you'll scan a little kiosk and it'll green light and you'll walk right into VIP. There's no manual checklists and things like that. So
can you?
That sounds like the perfect solution to all that. The other concern with that was there was a higher end event that we ended up having to get a refund on. And Rachel can help me out on that.
Next question.
Yes,
No comment. No comment.
Well, you know, with the Bourbon Fest in there, in your defense, Randy, that had nothing to do with COVID.
Right. Was that because of the COVID seating requirements? Is that what happened there?
Well, also, go ahead, Randy. You know exactly.
No, it was a perfect storm of everything gone wrong. So a little bit of it was garbage in, garbage out when we built the ticketing program. In, you know, I mean, it was us. I mean, it wasn't like a professional box office at Ticketmaster. You've got people that are professionals that build this stuff. In our case, it was us sitting on a computer and building these little events within the overall. So it was a little bit of us, and it was a little bit of the equipment. We rented iPhones and had to download the app to scan. So I mean, it wasn't geared. It's geared for a smaller event, like an evening dinner to check in 150 people. It wasn't meant for 8,000 people and 200 people going to this dinner. Yeah. And we had multiple events going on at the same time. So I mean, quite frankly, it was just freaking out the system. It wasn't reading things. And so I mean, we made that adjustment, and we had an event on Friday night that was called the Bottled and Bond Happy Hour. And, you know, and I will not, if anybody from Heaven Hill is watching, and this is not your fault. Heaven Hill is a wonderful partner. They actually sit on my board. They made good on their sponsorship. When they went on strike the week before the festival, they were there at the grounds set up, and they had to come and move because they didn't want to, be that lightning rod that drew a lot of attention to us. But one of the big events was this bottled and bond happy hour that we were going to have a couple dozen of the different bottled and bond products, and it just didn't happen. In hindsight, I should have just pulled the plug on the event and refunded everybody, but we did the best we could. We put it together. I apologized to everybody in line personally. I'm standing there telling people between the flood that went through and COVID and the strike, it just wasn't right. And some of the people said, "Hey, we had a great time. It wasn't what we."
had a great time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But other
Chad and
people,
Sarah. I
we
met
didn't have
Chad and
anybody.
Sarah.
We didn't have. I carefully say this because there might be someone watching that breaks this, but I had so many people that were upset and disappointed in that event but because I worked the line and talked to everybody and apologized, and I said, go in and have a great time. Here's my card. If you really just can't justify it, email me and I'll take care of you. And people were calling or emailing me afterwards saying, hey, look, we loved the festival. Oh my God, we loved the festival. We were disappointed in that event, but you owned it. And that's what I do. I own it. And, we refunded thousands of dollars, and we gave people the option, to do something, make good this year. But at some point you just clear the deck and say, take our losses. We refund the money and we fight, live to fight another day. But I could have hidden, a lot of people would have hidden and made excuses. And right. I did. I just owned it, and I've learned a long time ago that you can't hide from these kind of things. You got to own it, and people respect you. And again, people said, we love the event. We're disappointed, but we would have been a lot madder about that one situation had you not owned it. And we had a great time the rest of the weekend knowing that you were owning that situation, and we could kind of relax, and we weren't just mad from that point on.
It was still a great Bourbon Fest.
Thanks.
What you did there, that you owned it, and the steps that you're taking to alleviate or minimize the opportunity for such a repeat, that should move folks maybe more in the comfort zone that, we'll give it another chance. We'll spend our money again. And that was kind of the goal, to advertise what you did and the kind of person that you are to handle such a situation. Because, it's just like you don't know how good a company is when you buy their product until that product breaks, and how they handle you and what they do to make it good for you. So that's what I want to advertise for you.
Well, and I appreciate that. And, the other part of that is, now and I will own this too, that 2019's event could not happen again. I mean, all due respect to everybody involved in 2019 and before, but it was made very clear that we couldn't have that same event anymore. That experience had to be different. So 2020 was going to be the first step towards that. 21 was going to be the second step. 22 coming up was going to be the third stride in getting that done. Well, we canceled 2020 because of COVID, but I didn't stop. I said, okay, let's pretend we had 2020. All these changes were implemented. Now let's implement the 2021 also. So a lot of people realized that there was a long stride because there was a 2-year. People didn't feel that first step because it didn't happen literally. So this year it'll be a smaller stride. It'll be tweaks and simplifying. So, I've been saying all along, we're going to do fewer things better this year. So last year had to look drastically different, had to feel differently for everybody. Everybody was expecting, it's got to be more than just a couple of tents to make it look nice. Yet we had to do some things that were drastically different to justify all the pain. And so this year, it's just going to be tweaking it and making it easier for us to execute. Again, operationally, if we fail, the guest feels it. So you can have a successful event on paper, but if you're not executing it, then it doesn't matter how good it looks on paper. So this year we're condensing things and tightening things up and just making sure that we're focused. We're not trying to be everything to everybody. So
Randy, the way you articulate all that stuff, and this is not to blow smoke your direction or anything, but it's an honest feeling. Like, there are things that that you have to do that none of us here have even conceived that would ever be a problem and what to ask about. So I guess generally speaking, did you don't just get out of high school and say, okay, I'm going to be a major event organizer. How did you get into what you're doing? Give us the Reader's Digest condensed version of what
Okay.
got you down this path and where you're at now.
All right. So in high school, I was a rock concert fanatic. I went to every show I could, and I started sneaking my camera into the concerts, zoom lens, camera, and I started taking pictures, bootlegs basically. I never sold them. I just had them for my own photo album. And then I started, a friend of mine worked for a music magazine and hired me. So I started going to concerts, getting paid and taking pictures, but I got to see all the back of house. I saw the backstage and all of the operational kind of stuff. So that is going on at the same time that I'm working at the local newspaper, and they were a major sponsor, the title sponsor of my hometown's annual like Founders Day Festival or whatever you want to call it. And no one wanted to be involved. No one wanted from the newspaper wanted to sit on this board of this festival. And they said, well, you take concerts and you do all that stuff. You're always excited about events. Why don't you go and make sure they're spending our $25,000 right or whatever? So I sat 1 year on the marketing committee, and the next year I was president of the of the festival. And
What were you, like 20?
yeah, I was like 19 or 20. Yeah.
Oh my God.
And,
Wow.
It does
But-
make
so-
sense though, knowing you.
But I spent, okay, no, you're talking about overall career. I spent the first 12 years of my festival career as a volunteer. So I was doing what they called Tuddy Baker Days. Yes, the guy's name was Tuddy Baker, my city's founder. I did that for a couple of years, and then I was working in Rockford, Illinois, and they had a big weekend Labor Day music festival. I love music, so I'm working with On the Waterfront, which is a big Labor Day weekend festival. And then I went into the tourism world and started doing, we had 14 festivals that our Convention and Visitors Bureau had to promote. And my boss at the time, in his wisdom, said, I'll let you go and be a part of the music festival, which is what I wanted. But the trade-off is you can work during office hours on producing this festival because it's good for tourism, but you have to help the other 13 festivals. So we had a salmon fishing tournament, we had an Italian festival, a Polish festival, a German festival. So I was going as kind of a free consultant or executive on loan, helping all these different festivals with their marketing and sponsorships and stuff. So, you know, that was in Racine, Wisconsin. And so I did that for a couple of years. And
What's the big festival on the lakefront in
Summerfest.
in Racine?
Oh,
one
that
on
was
the Harbor.
that was Harborfest. That was what I ran.
You ran Harbor Fest?
Right.
Yeah.
So another festival that I attended.
Racine Harborfest.
Yep.
And then, but again, as a volunteer, and then the guy that did a lot of our entertainment booking worked for a lot of festivals in Milwaukee, including Summerfest.
Mhm.
And he said, hey, there's a festival that's looking for a paid director. You should check it out. I'll recommend you. And so he did. And you probably, I don't know, Milwaukee people have heard of Bastille Days
Uh-huh.
and Jazz in the Park. And so I ran those for 5 years. And then
Which ones?
I grew up on a dairy farm, and what the governor's office had a representative in Milwaukee that I was friends with and said, hey, the Wisconsin State Fair is looking for a director, and they're not going to do a political appointee that's been a train wreck. They've been losing millions. They want a job search. They want to go through and hire someone off the street. And, you know, I was a state employee at that point because consultants can't hire and fire and spend money with the state. So they hired me. So, I mean, I'm pretty proud of this. My first year, the year before I started, we lost $3.7 million at the Wisconsin State Fair. And when I left, we had back-to-back $1.5 million surpluses after it all. So it wasn't me. It was a lot of work and tightening things up and marketing. And, you know, I mean, we were being more serious about the music. We were being more serious about our marketing. Me being a farm kid that used to show cattle at the fair, I was very protective of the livestock and the 4-H and the youth program piece, not unlike what I'm doing here. So, I mean, every one of the things that I've done has been a little piece that has stuck and that I can apply at the Bourbon Festival. So, I mean, every decision that we're making, I'm drawing on a 30-year career of doing festivals, but it just kind of steamrolled. I mean, I ended up going to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and running a couple of festivals. I started a craft beer festival there. So a lot of the things that we're doing here in Bardstown on the Bourbon Festivals are things that I learned, you know, and kind of learned the hard way, some cases in the craft beer world. But, you know, the obvious piece of people coming to an event wanting an experience is true all the way through. No matter what the experience is, make sure it's something they can't get anywhere else, that is unique and authentic, and that's what we do here.
Wow, that's an awesome resume, Randy.
Well, like
I forgot the Derby. The Derby was in there somewhere.
Oh
But,
yeah,
Yeah.
There's this little event called the
Yeah.
Kentucky Derby.
Not
It's
a big
hardly
deal.
worth mentioning. You know,
right.
the top 10 sporting event in the world. But
Right. But the part about that, the Wisconsin State Fair of what you had, we've talked about what you did. Okay. But I went to Wisconsin State Fair from the time I was 5 years old. Okay. I mean, I remember the big slide, something that you
still there.
that was like the one thing you probably had to keep is the big slide, because that's all everybody when they were going to the fair forever knew. But the slide,
I offered to buy that. The guy that
your
does,
backyard.
the guy the guy that does the giant slide.
Yeah.
He does one in Minnesota at the state fair, and he does one in California. And we straight up offered him $1 million to buy it out from him.
Right from the
And he laughed in my face.
Because the amount of money he makes just in that, of people going down on a what is it? What kind of sack is it? It's a burlap sack. Yeah, burlap
sack. It's a big scaffold.
Yep.
And yeah, he laughed. So Fred, if you're by chance watching this, you did the right thing. No, but I mean, his kids and grandkids are all set for life off of a stupid burlap sack going down a slide.
But it's once again, it's the Wisconsin State Fair. It's part of it.
Yeah.
It's always been part of it. It seems a little sturdier these days.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about what we used to go up and what it is now is a little bit more OSHA friendly. There's no doubt about it. But what I wanted to say is, when I went to the fair for all these years, and I'm living in West Dallas and living in that area, and seeing what you did to take it, not only did you take it from a losing endeavor, but you took it to, it made money, but it actually was a better experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of times when people do that, they're taking from this and that and whatever, but you actually added more permanent structures, and there was so much more added to the festival that it made it more like a Disneyland than a thing that just got set up in the parking lot of the local. Everything started becoming more and more permanent, and that's one thing. The same thing with what you're doing at Kentucky Bourbon Festival. It seems like everything that was done last year, it felt more, not everything had to be set up. There's no doubt about it. And there's no way it could ever become permanent, but the aspect of how solid it was and the professionalism of it, that was way up. There's no doubt about it. You had like almost like different, where you had the craft distillers and where you had the main, you felt like you were walking through different villages. It just had that really cool feeling that.
And look, and Kate knows this. Before it, and again, I always mean all due respect to people that produced the event before, because the failure rate on a festival is about 4 years. So this thing made it 28 years and did just fine without me. So I say this carefully, but this year, when you approached as you're walking up the street, it had to look different. The show began as you approached. I mean, actually, the show began from your experience on our website and buying tickets and parking. That's all part of my psyche. It's all part of there. If you're already mad because you couldn't park or you had a cluster on your website, then you're already mad when you come to the gate. So, I mean, the journey begins long before that person comes to the gate. But when you approach this, we had the printed mesh on the front fence instead of just a chain link fence that looked like a construction site. It was a picture, told a story, and you came in, and every tent, we provided the tent. So even if you're a little 10 by 10 tent that selling marketplace, you weren't putting your little easy up tent up with a sandbag on the corners. We gave you the tent because the tents were part of the show. The lighting was part of the show. The vendors themselves had to be part of the show. I picked vendors that were doing demonstrations with where possible. It wasn't just sell jewelry. We had people there who were actually making jewelry, or the guy with the router, Old Man Bay
Yep.
signs.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that was all every single piece is part of the show. I mean, you can go to the mall and get a shopping experience. We wanted everything to make sense. So I'm trying to find a cigar partner that will actually hand roll cigars there as part of the show. Independent Stave does the cooperage, the barrel making, and it's all part of the show. And but I mean, the tenting and the lighting and all of that as you approach the curb appeal of the event was just as important as what was going on inside. And then when you're leaving, what that feels like. So, I always reminded people at Churchill Downs Derby, it starts when they're getting in their car, coming to the track. You take care of them during the day and get them out and make sure they get on the interstate. Once they're on the interstate and heading home, then our job is done. But I mean, the experience is more than just what's going on inside the fence. So we analyze that. I mean, I spent an hour and a half today with Jennifer talking about the admission process and the gates and where we're going to have people parking. And, people don't realize, nor do they need to, the amount of work that goes in. There is no magic wand that you just wave and an event happens. But it is very simple. I always tell people, if you've ever planned a birthday party, a backyard, or an anniversary party for your parents, it's the same checklist that I use. It's just the scale is different and the lead times are a little longer. And ice check, balloons check, fence check, music check, invitations. I mean, all that stuff is all what we basically do. It's just on a different scale.
Well, I was really impressed with all of the distillers' booths. They were quite spectacular. You could tell how invested they were in the festival and how excited they were to present their brand and their merchandise. And the staff that they had in each of those booths were, out there talking to everybody. And, a couple of times they said, come on back and, chat with us, behind the bar or whatever they were doing. It was just a very warm and welcoming and really, they were really cool. They were designed really cool. They had all sorts of really neat elements. They really.
And that's a great point. And thank you for that, because Kate and I were just talking, Double O Kate. Yeah. We were talking about when we go to a beer festival. Cheers. Hi, Jen. Yeah. Francesco, if you're watching, hello. But if you go to a craft beer festival, not mine, because I always made sure it wasn't done this way, but Kate and I have gone to a beer festival in Louisville. It's 4 hours. It's great. There's probably 80 breweries, tables, backdrops with their logo, and you walk up and I had this experience. I like this beer. Like, what is this? And the person said, I don't know. I'm just a volunteer. I'm just here pouring.
Yeah.
And I, it
was a card table with a trash bag over it too.
Exactly.
but it worked, and it's an $80 ticket, and people didn't complain because that was the experience that they were expecting. And with us, there's a different expectation, and I will always compare what we're producing to even the best craft beer festivals that I've run a few, that you come up and ask a question about this whiskey.
That person should know.
They're going to know.
Oh, it might be the master distiller, because many times it was.
It might be Francesco from Luca Mariano. It probably is Denny Potter or Jane Bowie from Makers. It could be Steve Nash, Steve Nally from Bardstown Bourbon, Brent Elliott from Four Roses, Freddie No from Jim Beam. The list goes on and on and on.
Wally Dant was there every day,
all
day.
It was
crazy.
If you're a 1792 fan, Danny Kahn was hanging around, and being part of the program, but just talking to people. Now, this is the guy that was the brewmaster for Sierra Nevada, so already a big fan. And then he comes here to Barton 1792 and is the master distiller for 1792 brands. Again, a big fan. But that's the thing that sets us off that no other festival that claims to be a bourbon festival has, is we've got all these distilleries within an hour drive. And we've got access to every one of these master distillers, and they come and play with us, and they love, and they play with each other, which is the other part, the collaborative spirit of this industry. I can put Steve Nally and Connor O'Driscoll on the stage, and they play nice. I put Denny Potter and Chris Morris from, Woodford on the stage, and they play nice. And everybody, you all know about the Heaven Hill Fire. They play nice together. So it's awesome to
They're
have
all
them.
about building each other up.
They're all about building each other up. And the top people, you talk about your Brent Elliott's and your Freddie Knows and so on and so forth. I've never seen a more approachable group of people in their positions, in comparable positions in any other industry that I've been associated with the last 40 some years of my working career.
Yeah.
It's
they're the rock
really
stars.
amazing. Just a great group of people.
They're the rock stars of bourbon. And, again, kind of making that parallel back to the music concerts. I've met some amazing artists backstage. I've met some major first-class a-holes backstage, and none of them are a-holes at the Bourbon Festival. They're all amazing.
Not at all. No
They
word.
love each other.
Not a one. Nope.
Well,
They love each other, and Steve Coombs once told me the industry wouldn't allow anyone to get out of line. The industry will self-correct. The consumer will keep these people that maybe get a little full of themselves in check. And they're the industry themselves, there's always somebody bigger out there, some young up and comer coming up through hot shot through the distilling. There's always Jimmy Russell sitting out there. There's always Fred Noe sitting there, Steve Nally. There's always somebody to say, keep in line, son.
Well, teaching them the core values of making good whiskey, working hard, paying attention to detail. It's business. The business and marketing and creativity all put together, but there is one underlying aspect that will always keep them being friendly and I've always said it and I always believe it, is they can't make enough. Every single one of them, every single thing they're putting out, no matter if they put out something that competes against their own stuff, it's all always going and selling. And that's where you don't get that competitiveness, because there's a competition for musicians against each other. There's just not an endless supply. Only so many dollars go to this amount of music and everybody's vying for that. Whereas they haven't reached that point where there's so many dollars. There's more dollars to be spent. They can't meet the demand.
The greatest thing was, and you guys remember it, when we were there at the Maker's Mark tour, when I asked the question, when they come out with something like a Maker's 46 or another expression, to what extent does this new expression cannibalize your existing product line? And the answer is zero.
Yes,
and the lady explained, the tour guide was just really informative. I'm sorry, I don't recall her name right at the moment. That's what I said to my son yesterday when he walked in, so don't feel bad. But at any rate, I said, I posed that question, and she said, it's like this: the average bourbon drinker, it's not one or the other. It's okay, I guess I have to buy both. And so, they do not suffer, at least not to the measurable extent that other industries do, of, cannibalizing their own product. There is so much room for growth in this industry. So it speaks exactly what you and Tiny were saying.
You're right. And like Brown Forman stepped away from the festival. We were no longer aligning with their brand. They challenged me years ago, maybe not directly, but by them leaving, they challenged me to produce the event, and they came back in this year, but we just did an Old Forester barrel pick that everybody is really excited about. But to your point, Xavier, I went to the gift shop and there was Old Forester 100, there was the Statesman, and there was the 1910. I've already got 1920 Prohibition, so I didn't buy one or the other. I bought them all. And took them home. So it wasn't eeny, meeny, miny, mo. It was like it's $180. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What the heck?
Well, when I first came to your house and we did the podcast with Steve Coombs, your cabinet behind you had like 6 or 7 autographed bottles in there. You know what I mean? Now it's full covered on the
You
top,
need a new cabinet.
and
I'm
you're
on the floor.
you're running into getting something like this,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna get more, and you're gonna get more, and you're gonna get
And I've got those.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's our barrel picks. I got them on the floor. I got them up here.
Well,
Sorry for that. Sorry for that, everybody at home. That was
Well, that's how it
Busy.
works. As your collection grows, you need to present
Mhm.
in a certain way, and it just keeps growing and growing because
and then there's the bottle that Kate has in her nightstand and
hey, well, Kate, what is that bottle? What do you have? What is your favorite bourbon right now? What do you keep by your?
If I were to pull a bottle, I mean, I generally come down here and he has to pull, so I make sure that I'm not drinking a $500 bottle because I like it all. But if I were to keep a bottle on my nightstand, it would be Maker's 46.
Yeah.
Hey, look at that.
or
Yeah, right here.
FA1.
FAO1.
She loves the
Oh,
FA1.
it's private select. Okay, my mistake.
But
Yes.
speaking of just adding bourbon to your collection,
It's
there's
Maker's Mark.
you mentioned earlier that people coming to the festival are going to be able to purchase bottles.
Wow. Roxy, why don't you take the center seat? Jeffrey, move.
Look at that.
Move down the bench. Mini, move down the bench.
Man, she is the pro on this thing. Thank you.
No, she is. She's every bit
Well,
part of the
my
sketch. Roxy, man.
background was some of my background, many things in my background was in sales and marketing. So, I'm helping you out.
Then we have Jeffrey's background that actually gets checked periodically.
Yeah, you'll remember Jeff from all those festivals. He was the one. Just think of people you saw your security escort out.
I need to think about that because a couple of our festivals we had like 1 or 2 arrests. That could have been you. I need to go back and
No, I've never been arrested at a festival. That's
No, when he was, incoherent at the gala in 2019.
they let him get across. They let him get across the street. I know that game.
Yeah. Just leave me the.
It's funny. At that gala in 2019, I was a good boy. I had a few drinks.
We were all happy.
I wanted to pound every ounce of alcohol that was in that room that had so much good stuff, but I restrained myself. But somehow the next morning, I still had barf on my shoes and my jeans. I don't know how it got there.
How did
that happen?
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was the old Bourbon Festival.
Right.
Yes.
No. I mean, it was
right.
I mean, how many people have basically just, it was just pure alcohol because there was no food that I had been eating.
And that was
But I was 55 years old. It was my birthday. Okay. And I was in a tux.
told everybody how old you are.
That-
Now they're all going to be like, wait a minute.
Well, it was called the Bourbon Prom, affectionately. So you fit in.
Yeah. Well, and then there was.
I picture you dressed like Lloyd on Dumb and Dumber.
He was wearing a full penguin suit, full tuxedo.
Yeah.
I'm
And there was
sorry.
On a
pictures.
tuxedo.
There
for
was
the event.
pictures taken of me.
Yeah, actually,
that
thank you for reminding me.
had
I was wearing a suit.
No idea. No idea.
I was a perfectly good boy, and I still had to get my suit dry cleaned the next day.
Well, I had to get mine too. Anyways,
Okay,
that's-
be quiet. Randy, talk about the bottles that people
Thank you.
Yeah,
My
there we go.
God.
Yes,
Festival.
enough.
So now think about the chronological order of this festival. And again, most of it was state laws that have been changed thanks to the Kentucky Distillers Association. Steve Amato, our legal counsel, also works with the KDA, works with the legislature. We got it to where last year, because of our nonprofit status, we had a special event permit that had a lot of latitude that allowed us to sell bottles. So we had a bottle shop. Justin's House of Bourbon basically sold us all of the bottles that you bought on the festival. We sold it, and voila, everybody happy. So now that was the yield from 10 barrels. Now we have the yield from 20 barrels that will still be available at Justin's. But
So much bourbon.
House Bill 500 is a game changer for us, for the industry, really. I mean, the single barrel, the ability for distilleries to sell single barrels, they've been doing it, and technically it's been illegal, but the language firmed it up, so it's more defined, it's all legal. The ability for the sampling and tastings on site, the ability for them to sell their own bottles in their own gift shop, all of that. But what really helps us with fairs and festivals is that they can bring bottles to their exhibit. So if you've been to a wine festival, you taste the wine. I love that. I like a case of it, or I like that bottle. We could never do that. And now this year, you're going to be able to do that. So you'll not only be able to sample, you'll be able to buy. And I think I mentioned earlier, we're doing rental lockers. So if you're there and you're shopping, you'll get a locker, you can put your bottles in, lock it up, and when you're ready to go, you can take them home with you. But
That's great.
that's a game changer.
That's a
Not
heck
have
of
to
an
go
idea.
run back and forth to the car with your bottles.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a game changer for you as consumers, because you can actually go to the festival and buy what you're sampling. It's a game changer for the distilleries, because obviously they're able to sell directly. They can bypass the 3-tier system in this instance, where they don't have to go through a distributor and retail. They can self-retail. So that's huge for them. And for us as the event organizer, I mean, we're pulling it together. We have happy distilleries, we have happy customers, and the sky's the limit on what we're able to do. So
Everybody
well,
start saving now.
just to throw this out, okay? And I don't even know what, I mean, you've got the festival a certain size right now, but you probably could throw, based off this, in 3 to 5 years, a mega festival where if the distillers
Randy.
actually released Kentucky Bourbon Festival limited edition bottles, you'd probably be able to draw a crap ton of people from around the world to come to the festival. Just okay, it's like real short of a shit ton, but no. Anyways,
Well, if you
but
do
I'm
that,
saying it's like you could throw. I mean, it would be if you could just go to one festival. You just think about how many people sit outside of Justin's House of Bourbon when you release.
Hey, Roxy, calm him down. Calm him down.
I just got so
you
excited.
know, Randy, the thing that I thought of that I'm glad, Tiny reminded me of it here. I wasn't exactly thinking those terms, but it would be something
We love you.
if you could accomplish having I know that they have it in venues like London or San Francisco, or pick your poison. Why not have some type of whiskey competition worldwide in Bardstown? Have it time of Bourbon Festival.
You're tapping on some long range thoughts. I started that thought, Xavier, with the Bourbon Barrel Relay.
Okay.
Okay, it's called the World Championship Bourbon Barrel Relay, but by virtue of our bylaws and we only allow Kentucky distilleries, Kentucky bourbon in the festival. So really it's the Kentucky Barrel Relay Championship. So we had talked at one point not too long ago about using, it's kind of like the Pan Am Games, or where you have Team USA versus Team Scotland versus Team Ireland versus Team Canada in a barrel relay, and have the World Championship at the festival. So you could do the barbecue event could be the qualifier for Team USA, and then all the other worldly things are going, and then we come back in September and we do the World Championship. So it's not Team Heaven Hill against Team Beam and Team Maker's Mark. It's Team USA that might be one guy from Maker's Mark, gal from
the best of the best. You have like
Suntory.
Yeah, you have
the best of the best of the best. Sure.
Yes.
But think about this, Randy. The team that wins, the barrels they're rolling are full of bourbon.
503 pounds.
You could have like a bottling line set up, and then whatever team wins, you bottle that barrel right there on the festival and sell it as the winning team
this guy.
barrel
And
the barrel. I mean, just think about how
The barrels are
that
actually
would go.
the barrels are filled with water for the relay, but I see where you're going with that.
But they should be. I mean, just turn it into whiskey.
If you could get a major spirits competition going,
or
right there, I mean, what better thing to have at Kentucky Bourbon Festival?
Yeah, but
No, I agree.
well,
I
you
agree.
could, if they are filled with water, but at the same time, every single distillery should have the one barrel that those teams pick to be and if they win, that's bottled and sold at the festival. That would be, and then that would be the only place. That would be the championship bourbon barrel relay team barrel.
But
keep-
then you're
keep talking,
talking about the relay team winning.
Wait, hold on.
I'm writing this down. Hold on.
Oh, seriously? You're writing this
No,
down?
no, but what you're talking about is the relay team winning. I'm talking about a spirits competition
Oh yeah.
Taste
that
it.
is just tasting just like what they have in London or San Francisco or pick your poison.
Oh, well,
where
that
it's
would
at,
be really
and
cool.
have something like that in Kentucky
They do that in New Orleans, right?
at the Bourbon Fest. That would be the Nirvana, I think.
Do they do that at New Orleans?
They
Or
did,
they-
Yeah.
but it was like 30 people sitting in a room. You can't really have like, it's not very exciting to watch people sit around and taste bourbon.
You haven't watched us drink bourbon.
Yeah, really.
Well, Kate,
Just watch the
Kate,
three of us.
Kate, that
I mean-
would all be going on in the background. You know, you'd have the judges, you'd
You
have
still
all
have
the
everything
judges
else
and
going
the
on, yeah.
yeah, and it would just be you give out Kentucky Bourbon Festival ribbons, or in the case of they were actually barrel heads this year, right? For
Yeah.
yeah.
But
So
you could be
I have
announced that over the loudspeaker.
I have pictures of Double O Kate enjoying her bourbon. If I share screen, I could. No, I'm kidding. She knows how to enjoy her bourbon too.
You probably have pictures of all of us. It's just-
After Luca Mariano, I don't hold anything over anybody's head. So,
Exactly.
Yep.
and just to share with everybody that's watching this, the inside joke. We did a barrel pick with Wilderness Trail on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And if you've ever done a Wilderness Trail pick, they put out 12 Glencairns and then you blind taste 4. And I was early enough in my life and career here that I thought it would be rude to not drink all the whiskey that was in the Glencairns. So I probably had 14 shots of bourbon before noon on a Saturday.
well, yeah,
And
that
then we went to barrel pick number 2 at 2:00 was Luca Mariano, their first ever barrel pick. Jen was so excited to host us. We had this wonderful party, and Kate had all 3 of you probably babysitting me and making sure that Randy was okay.
We
And
show up at the party and we're all dressed fancy and we're all very and he's like,
love you guys.
hey,
So
look
there's
at that.
pictures of me hugging but I didn't tip over any tables. There was no mud on any my pants or anything. I scampered up and down the little steps to the little restroom trailer. I got home totally unscathed. 6:30 at night, I was in the hotel.
Right.
Well, but the whole thing is that's what when it every once in a while this industry has the tendency to bite you in the ass because you think you got it kind of figured out, but all of a sudden and it's not just it's what you eat or what you didn't eat or you're not counting. I mean, I've had times where I've drank 4 barrel proof full pours and I've been fine. And then I've had times where I had 4 80 proof Irish whiskeys and I'm gone. You can't control it all the time. And every once in a while it gets you. And
Well, Jeffrey,
medications or whatever that you don't realize that contributed.
well, last week when you came down, what did we do before Elijah Craig barrel proof? We sat at Pat's place and had a breakfast sandwich, so we had something in our bellies.
Yeah, and
gotta
I
lay
mean-
down the base.
I mean, honestly, that barrel pick, and that was fantastic. I just did a podcast just yesterday with it. I put it out, but that barrel pick was so fantastic. That was the first time I ever got a pick in a rick house. Then you got Connor O'Driscoll standing right next to you. You got Justin. You've got, you know what? Every single time I go to remember her name, it's
Caroline.
Yep,
Caroline Paulus.
Yeah,
Caroline is a rock star.
yeah, and she's the senior editor of whiskey, bourbon.
The Bourbon Review, or
Yep, Bourbon Review. That's it. I even had problems last night with it, but Caroline.
she does all of their tasting notes. I mean, she's a genius.
She was so quick on the tasting notes and confident. You know, she instantly was like, knew exactly what she was tasting and everything. But then tasting with Justin, he's tasted a hundreds of barrels, and then having Connor over there, and I was right next to him. So while he was tasting, he was making subtle comments to himself and talking about it. So to get, go through that with a master distiller, and then to be there and be part of that was just, I mean, it was so fantastic. Thieving from the barrel, getting able to, we opened the barrel, but obviously they had been opened before, but that's just, that kind of thing is just fantastic. There's the thief, this is the thief. It's when Randy isn't at Luca Mariano, that actually goes in the barrel and you can pull whiskey out with it. It's basically the version of a giant straw. You pep it up. And you did a spectacular, I mean, the video that I got of you thieving and everything from the barrel, it was such a great experience. I mean, to do it from the Rick House for the first time, and then the pictures, man. I mean, that one picture of us all standing there with the way the lighting is and everything, and then just everything, it just turned out, it was so perfect for that.
It's a gritty old warehouse. And, and Connor doesn't get to do these a lot. So, I mean, there are people out there that do barrel picks as your bourbon societies and things. I mean, that's a great experience. There's always a tour guide, so to speak. And we had that. But the cool thing about what we're doing is, again, we have that access to the master distiller. So we have Denny Potter and Jane Bowie doing our Maker's Mark pick, and they're in the room with us. And Connor O'Driscoll is sitting there with us at Heaven Hill. Freddie is leading the charge for the Knob Creek pick. We go on and on and on. Brent Elliott, the very first Four Roses broadcast virtual barrel pick was our KBF pick last year. So we're in the lab, picking the barrel, and there's people online, Zoom, and asking questions and doing all this stuff. So, I mean, that's really the cool thing. Chris Morris sat down with us at Justin's in Louisville, and we did the Woodford Reserve barrel pick. And so, I mean, so every one of our bottles has an additional little story because the master distiller is sitting there with us. And we talked a little bit offline about the wild turkey with Bruce, pulling out of the Russell family. It's a Russell's Reserve is what we're getting. An actual
Russell's Reserve, not the name brand, but actually pulled from their reserve barrels.
Jimmy and Eddie and Bruce have a stash of their own best of the best. So when you see that in a bottle at the Bourbon Festival, it's their hand-picked. It's not going to be like what we normally would do. You sample from 3 or 4 barrels and you make the decision. They picked it for us. And so, I mean, every one of these barrel picks, not only is the liquid totally unique, but the story behind how we get them into the bottle and get them out into your hands is pretty cool. And the fact that 2 years ago we didn't do it, and I'd never heard of a barrel pick. I didn't know what it was. And here we are 2 years later, short 2 years, but a long 2 years. And we have 20 chicken cock. I know you guys love Greg Snyder. I love Greg.
Oh, yeah.
Maddie,
great guy. Team. My goodness.
The very first, even before officially they're launching the single barrel program, which they're going to do at some point, we're doing a single barrel pick with them. So chicken cock, the very first in their recent history anyway of a single barrel is us. Yep. Rabbit Hole. You were showing the Rabbit Hole Mad Hatter. That was going to be a once in every, maybe a lifetime barrel pick because they're going to do West Coast and do all these other things. Well, guess what? We're doing Rabbit Hole again. So we're coming up with a second round. And that was a high gold. This year we're doing Cave Hill. So,
yay!
That's our favorite.
We love Cave Hill.
That is breaking news that I'm sharing with you tonight. The first Cave Hill single barrel with Cave is going to be sitting with us. So there's just so many of those. Are you going to cry, Jeffrey?
I think I am.
You might.
I'm just thinking about, oh God, I love Randy. It's but so one of the things everybody has to, so when people in groups go on single barrel picks, it's a fun time, okay? But for the most part, you're not getting always. Now, early on, you would get Jimmy Russell and you would get Fred because when it wasn't this popular. But now that it's so popular, you're going in, you're getting the team, you're picking for barrels and through barrels, and you make that pick and it goes out. But what everybody has to understand about these Kentucky Bourbon Festival picks, And it might not have been so prevalent last year when you guys were doing this, because the distilleries didn't quite know exactly what to make of it. This is the first time. But this year, they all freaking understand that this is a way to showcase the best of the best. So when we walked into that with Connor, okay, you got the feeling that they had gone through a good amount of barrels where they felt they had their 3 best barrels ready for us to taste so that we could showcase what Heaven Hill is doing with Elijah Craig Barrel Proof. It wasn't the normal rollout kind of 6 barrels that you get to pick from. And these barrels were, they were handpicked and ready because they want to showcase their stuff at Kentucky Bourbon Festival. And they're all pretty much after what you did last year on board, and they know that this is the place to do it. So you're getting some really, last year they were special, but they've even upped their game, in my opinion.
You're right. And I'll use Freddie with the Knob Creek pick last year to this year. So last year in the middle of COVID, they're shut down, they're under construction, they had no on-site barrel picks. So Freddie had some samples pulled, and the bottles are sitting up here on my shelf, but he brought them over, and he wasn't really totally happy with what was selected. So when we went this year, we picked 2 barrels in one shot. So we had 3 and 3, and Freddie knew every single one. He knew the proofs, the ages, and he picked them all. So I mean, he's standing there like a proud papa watching us thief, and so that you couldn't pick a better 6 barrels than what Freddie picked for us. And I know after we did the 2, those 4 are going to be amazing. The remaining ones that we didn't pick are going to be someone else's amazing pick, because there wasn't a bad one in the whole lineup,
Well, there's a reason why, as the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, why I'm including Sandy as part of our picking team. She's a wonderful person. She hasn't done this before, so this is her. Like, she's been along, but she's not been a part of like an actual barrel. She's tasted from the barrels, but not been a part of a pick. But I'm willing to bet that Fred and Freddie are going to be letting her taste some damn good Knob Creek when we go into that pick. I mean, there's no doubt. And in all due respect, Sandy, it's not exactly why I want you to come along, but it's really kind of cool that that's happening. So
Sandy around. She's the best.
One of the sweetest, nicest persons you're ever going to meet.
Absolutely.
Good friend of ours.
Very good person.
Yeah. And she's a Scotchy bourbon girl, right?
She's a Scotchy bourbon boy, and she'll say boy.
She's the bourbon queen.
Yes,
You're El Presidente.
Queen.
We got double O-Kate, and then we have the bourbon queen.
Yes.
She loves
She's just an awesome person.
Sandy is above us. And I'll tell you a little inside scoop. I believe I heard secondhand that when the festival was kind of going or losing its luster, that a lot of the marketing folks at Beam wanted to give up on us and pull out. And it was Fred and Freddie and Fred and Sandy that always advocated for making sure Beam stayed aligned with the festival. So I hope I'm doing you all proud that, going and sticking up for us to stay involved, because a lot of the festivals would have lost those distilleries and not been able to get them back. So the fact that she was part of keeping them involved is amazing. So thank you, Sandy.
That's not surprising knowing her personality.
Well, they love, the families right there, the core families that you're talking about, the makers, the Samuels, and then the Beams and those and whatever. They basically were that core that started it, the Russells and whatever, and they never wanted to give up on it because they knew what it meant. But they also are working for major other people right now, and that's a thing. That's a fight that they always have to do, because it does come down to it has to make has to benefit. There has to be a benefit to have that kind of money invested, and I think that's what you're.
We're all capitalists.
And I mean, we went to the Beam, the Man Cave, to do one of our virtual events, and it was Fred and Freddie and Eddie and Bruce, and Sandy sat back of the camera with us. And we had a lot of really cool off-camera moments where we talked about where the festival was and where it was going. And, Fred's got a perspective, on just people are going to get mad. You know, the locals are going to hate you. You know, I mean, but just stay the course. You're doing the right thing. And you had, you know, Bill and Rob Samuels from the makers side saying the same thing. You know, Eddie and Bruce to some extent. I've yet to meet Jimmy, so I'm looking forward to that. But the distilleries knew that we had a rough time ahead because of the changes that we all knew we had to make. And you know, they were really my spine on this whole thing. You know, they're represented on my board, and a lot of our board members are Bardstonians, and they took a lot of heat. And you know, they said, I'm willing to take it. You just keep doing what you have to do to save the festival. And you know, it would have been gone. I really believe, and I'm not like some savior riding in on a white horse. We just stayed the course. We did exactly what the distillery said we needed to do. So it wasn't miraculous. It was just we listened to what they said. And a lot of them, Buffalo Trace, my very first meeting face to face with a distillery was at Buffalo Trace. It was hotter than hell. You know, I'm sweating, but we're wearing a mask and we're doing all this stuff. And they led me into this like hour-long presentation that I did. And they just sat there and I didn't know what to think. And then they said, finally, somebody listened to us.
Yeah.
You know, that summarizes the whole experience over and over again. Finally, we told you what you needed to do. You didn't listen to us for years. Now you're listening. Yes, we'll be involved. And that just happened over and over again. But again, it was nothing magical. It was just, well, your customers are telling you what you need to do. You can either listen to them and do it or not and lose them. I mean, it's basic business 101. And
well, you have customers coming. I mean, it's difficult with a festival because you need attendance, but you also have to have people that run. You know, you rely on. You know, Wisconsin State Fair relies on a lot of different people, but it's fair people. You know what I mean? Where this is, each distillery, it's its own entity. What happens at Buffalo Trace is totally different than when it happens anywhere. I mean, they offer a different experience. They do things a different way. You know, their marketing's different, everything. And to be able to bring them all together and then make them, you know, where they're all like, holy crap, this is what we want to present. And this is the face of our distilleries to these people. You weren't doing that before, and now you're doing it.
You know, and that's where I disagree with you, Randy. You said it wasn't magic. I kind of think it is. And let me point out why I think it is you had to present, and what you've been presenting to us is a completely vertically integrated experience for the bourbon enthusiast and the bourbon producer, but yet you are the quintessential example of you're producing that with horizontal integration through all of your resources. So to make that all come together in the manner that you did, I kind of disagree with you. I think it is magic.
Yeah, you do a good job. You do a damn good job.
All right,
I'm
so
I'm the orchestra conductor. That's all I am.
There you go.
I'm like, that's all I am, really.
And what makes a great symphony? I mean, every great symphony has a great conductor, and they have gotten a good conductor.
So Randy, take us out by telling us how everybody can get tickets to this.
Well, not take us out. Tell us how. Then I have a question for Kate before we go.
Because I was going to say
a Kate question.
No. So Roxy, thank you again for keeping us on track. So this year. Last year, we talked about what we learned last year and what we're doing differently this year. So last year, you bought a general admission ticket or a VIP ticket that got you in the gate, and then that was the experience. But if you wanted to sample, you had to go get in line and get wristbands and all this stuff. So 65% of the people that we surveyed after the festival said they'd rather have all the tastings included in their ticket, one-stop shop. So we listened, again, back to they told us what they want, and we listened. So this year we're doing a 3-day ticket. It'll be $125, which comes out to roughly $40 a day for sampling.
Don't go anywhere for $40 a day.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the sticker shock is going to be real, and I realize that, and I'm sensitive, and you have to understand we spent hours. I wake up at 3 a.m. thinking about that. So wait.
And
I get into her nightstand at 3 a.m. and I go back to sleep.
But what's sticker shock? You're talking about $120 for people who basically wait in line to spend $330.
You're right. You're right.
Not sticker shock.
But I'm just being full transparency. I'm always worried about the value I'm worried about pricing it to where the enthusiast feels like it's a fair price, and the people that maybe it's a stretch a little bit that they might go ahead and go for it, that we're going to deliver them a value. And so again, back to us, we spent $80 each to go to a brew festival for 4 hours to talk to people that don't know anything about the product, versus $40 a day on average to go and talk to the people that make it. And that's kind of a cool thing. So you spend $125. You can come and go as you want the entire weekend. You can come in Friday, you can go to a tour, you can come back, you can go out to lunch, you can come back. So it's in and out, and you have access to, right now, over 40 distilleries, from the smallest craft distillery that people probably have never heard of to your Maker's Mark, Jim Beam, Heaven Hill, Wild Turkey, the Brown Foreman. So everything in between. And then the other option, because we also realize that people may not be able to jump whole hog into doing this experience. I've got a lot of friends that are enthusiasts, but not really at your level, where they're going to live there and camp out, and I'm going to have to ask you to leave on Sunday and go home. So we are doing a single day Sunday ticket. And last year, you all were there. Friday and Saturday were 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Long days for everybody, for volunteers, for the distilleries, for the guests, for me. And then we had Sunday, which was 11 to 3, and we had some stuff going on, but we didn't have the full program. The educational things that Steve was doing wasn't happening. So this year, what we're doing is we're shortening it to noon to 6, and noon to 4. So when you come in, the festival opens at noon, and it's going to be jam-packed. We're going to have all of the educational stuff going on, the music, the marketplace vendors, the distilling, I guess, demonstrations and all of that, as well as your ability to buy the bottles. But the idea.
Jeffrey has a question.
Who does?
I do. So you're doing noon to 6, noon to 6, noon to 4. But you should start letting people in a little earlier than noon, like at 11, but not have anything open so you can check people in quicker. What about that? Was just an idea. I'm not saying you have to go with it, but that might be something you do when the festival, when everybody opens, they might just be able to be there. Yeah. There you go. I just was thinking of it just occurred to me.
In the former life, Jeff told Van Gogh it'd be a good idea to cut off his ear. So, take that with a grain
and
of
look,
salt.
and he became famous, so there you go.
People do like to walk in and get the lay of the land, so I'm sure that they will probably do that. But I think it's so cool that this year you're going to walk up and you're going to
Get a band. Yeah, you'll hit the bands.
And
Yeah.
just zap it and go.
have somebody standing there, trying to scan your ticket. So
Which wasn't that bad. It just could be better.
Tell us about the.
We were laughing. We were laughing last night. Our main security guy, who I worked with at Churchill, who was the main security guy at Churchill, we were laughing that people were coming up, and Kate was at the gate, and people were like, "Oh my God, I waited in line for 40 minutes and blah blah blah." And Ross is his name. He was like, he's like, "So really, you waited 20 minutes?" And just like scanned people in and got them in.
It was just but what's even more, you just said Kate was at the gate, which was amazing. I mean, when it came push to shove and everything was going down, Kate like stepped up like. We were, the night before at Bourbon in the Air, we were hanging out, and then all of a sudden she just saw what was going on that day, and she just was right there. I mean, she helped make everybody get checked in, just like you did.
008 at the gate.
I wasn't planning on doing it. But I was happy to do it.
She was supposed to be like helping volunteer check in or something at the VIP, and next thing I know, I'm like, "Kate, I need you up front." And
I think she worked the whole damn weekend, every single place that we were. But she, like you said, that's what it took to step up. But okay, so there you go.
Tell us about the premium events that you're having this year.
How they're going to work,
Tell us what they are. And
all right, so first and foremost, probably the biggest shift in what we're doing programmatically is the VIP that has always been on the third floor of the old building with the one elevator, the one bathroom, window air conditioners. It's a beautiful venue, don't get me wrong, but it has a great view, as you know. But we're taking VIP and we're putting it down right on the lawn. So we're gonna have a big VIP tent. red carpet, literally a step and repeat to take pictures, the palm trees, all of the cool air conditioning, all of that down in
Nice
the lawn.
bathrooms, more bathrooms.
So if you went, yeah, exactly, multiple bathrooms, catering the entire day, so not just hit and miss. But if you went to last year's premium education sessions that Steve Coombs did in the tent, that area is going to be now VIP, sidewalled windows, air conditioned, music, lighting, bars, all that included in the price. Upstairs, where VIP has always been, is going to be our education. So when you buy a premium education experience, you want to go and talk to Brent Elliott, and you're trying to do all of this stuff and listen to him rather than having the music and the humidity and all of the stuff that goes with the open tent. It's upstairs, it's away from the sound, it's air conditioned, refrigerator, kitchen, bathroom, one elevator. It's more suited for 30, 40 people in a class. And so we're going to do that. So that's the biggest shift, is VIP is going to be down on the lawn, easy access, come and go. Classroom.
Still going to have air conditioning, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. It's going to be, he's going to put out for
Because
like,
that was the most premium product you had, not all the different whiskeys, but the air conditioning.
You're right.
Last
You're
year,
right.
I recall.
You're right. So it will be, the carpeted, sidewalled, air conditioned, the cool lighting, palm trees and all the fun decor and all that kind of stuff. But I always want VIPs to feel special, but to be connected to the festival. So it doesn't do a lot of good if the VIPs are up on the third floor of a building the entire time hanging out, because you're not experiencing, so what we're trying to do is make it to where you can come and go a little easier. You're not standing in line. You're not having
That's a great idea.
And I still maintain that if everybody is a VIP, then nobody is a VIP. So 5% of the overall ticket count will be allotted for VIPs. So if we sell 10,000 tickets, 500 people will be the max that will be VIP. And I think that's really important too, to give those people that elevated experience and let the outside people want to be a VIP instead of every other person that they run into having the credential and, oh, you're a VIP too. Okay. So, so it's a very elite little club. So we've got some cool flasks coming this year for the flask course. So
that sounds amazing. So
what other special events are you going to have?
So is it the same thing like with the media pass, like that you only have like 1% of the people who have media passes, and so everybody all wants to be part of the media and do podcasts and stuff like
this year, podcasters are not allowed, and the media influencers have to have at least 100,000 followers. So this may be our only interaction all year.
There we go. This is it for me. It just said, I gotta wait 5 more years before now you gave me something to try for.
If you're a Beavis and Butthead fan, when I got my pass, being the juvenile at heart that I am, I go up to Jeff and I say, I got a path, wife.
Look at he's Cornholio.
Yeah, right. Oh, Cornholio. I got a path.
So Randy, when do tickets go on sale and how can they get them?
Roxy, thank you. May 11th, they go on sale to the public. May 10th, they go on sale to people that are bourbon insiders. So if you go to our website and subscribe to the e-blast, you will have a 24-hour early start before they go live to the public on Wednesday, the 11th. We wanted to get past Derby, because anyone knows anything about Louisville in this area, it's already Derby fever, 18 days until Derby. So the media, everything is Derby. So that's what we're doing. So we have a press release going out tomorrow, or I guess today, technically. This is airing Wednesday, right?
Yes.
So
tonight,
right now,
it's Tuesday night, but it's Wednesday.
Right. So but limited tickets. I mean, you all mentioned earlier that we probably could take over the world and sell double the tickets, and square footage wise, and with COVID restrictions gone, we could sell a lot more tickets, but we're not. We're keeping that experience to where you're not standing in line for 20 minutes to get a sample. You're not 20 minutes at a restroom, 20 minutes at a food line. That eats away at your day. So the thing that people said over and over again, and we heard it loud and clear, was we love that even if it was 30 seconds, that you could talk to Brent Elliott or Denny Potter or Steve Nally. I mean, that was really important to people. So it doesn't benefit us, anyone, to start doubling the number of people just because we can. I mean, it's kind of like the old collegiate, how many people can you fit in a Volkswagen? That's never been our goal. It's to do a very nicely run event that people can enjoy the experience and have that interaction, that chill kind of hangout. The bourbon in the air event on Thursday night. That's kind of the motto for the whole weekend, is make it chill, make it be the place people want to be, but make it really chill and so people can have that cool experience. So
when does like the bourbon in the air go on sale? When will that go on sale? Like later in the
we are a little bit later this year on the ticket sales for the Bourbon Festival because of the barbecue festival. So we went on sale in early March with the barbecue festival. We didn't want to confuse people and trip on ourselves. So hence why we're doing the May 11th launch for the Bourbon Festival. But like last year, June 14th, National Bourbon Day, is when all the premium events went on sale. And that's what we're doing this year. So your VIP and your admission tickets, all including all the sampling, goes on sale May 11th. Unless you're an insider, then you can get them on May 10th. So hint. But June 14th was when the bourbon in the air, Xavier, you asked about the premium events. So all the educational things that Steve is doing will be available on sale on June 14th. The evening last year, we had Jim Beam Family Barbecue and the Rabbit Hole Dinner Experience. We're not sure what those Friday and Saturday receptions are going to be at, but they will also be included in that second wave. So first wave is to get people their tickets so they can get in. The second wave is then going to be talking about the different education and premium. And we're going reception style this year. So it's difficult to execute a dinner event, a seated, linens, centerpiece, catered, plated type of a meal. It's just difficult to do. It's hard to do in a major city, let alone in Bardstown with limited options for service and everything. So we're trying to create more of a lively reception, kind of like the bourbon in the air, where you're heavy hors d'oeuvres and you're passed and you're standing up and you're kind of milling around rather than seating at a banquet kind of a setting. So it'll be a little bit more lively, kind of quick hitting kind of stuff.
So the other question is, you mentioned that some of the distilleries are going to have some events also off site, right? That's what are you going to connect to those events, or are those going to be through the distiller? Is that all going to go, anything that you're connected that way? Are you going to sell the tickets on June 14th or
no? Anything that might, and these are all purely examples, but let's say Beam and Four Roses and Bardstown Bourbon Company and Lux Row and Heaven Hill and Dant Crossing, Log Still all decide to do evening events, different themes, concerts and things. They will all program them themselves. They'll cater them, they'll tents, they'll sell their own tickets, and then we'll just promote it as, while you're in town for Bourbon Festival, check this out. So we're trying to cut the ties. We don't need to monetize them. We don't need to be the box office. What we're trying to do, and look, this, in the last 2 or 3 years, each of these distilleries has invested millions in their visitor experience. Their restaurants, their tour experiences, their gift shops. So we would be foolish to try to work with them on one hand and bring people into town and then try to monopolize their time, which is the main reason why we're closing at 6 o'clock at night, is to get people out onto the campuses of these distillery partners. So
those couple receptions,
but we're not the box office. We're not scheduling the bands. We're not doing that. We're just promoting them.
But the couple receptions will be just like whoever gets tickets to that'll happen maybe after 6 o'clock. Those receptions will happen, but it'll be for a limited amount of people.
Correct.
Everybody else can find, but you'll also promote those so that we'll know where to, kind of where to go to be able to get to be a part of those. All right.
Correct. So the concept is, and these are round numbers. So please, no one take these as like the gospel, but let's just say for round numbers, there's 10,000 ticketed guests coming to the Bourbon Festival. 200 of them will be at the grounds and in the evening. After we close the festival at 6 and people leave, there'll be 200 people in that big tent that we did last year. The other 9,800 people will be circulating around town, either dining at the restaurants and doing their own thing, or going on tours, or hopefully sitting out here at these different distilleries. So that's the next step. So we're trying to do small, there's a distillery that wants to do a very small 50-person kind of an experience. So we might do those kind of things upstairs in the office where you got 50 people, It's one-on-one with the master distiller. So we have that option of doing the small little production things, but we don't want these full-blown evening events any longer.
Okay.
Not us.
The full-blown evening event, that the best that you're going to have is the kickoff of the bourbon in the air. And then after that, it's just going to, and just so you know, then all the arrests will go up. You're going to let everybody out and it won't have anything to do with you, but the arrests are going to go way up because you just let the whole group of 10,000 people out on Bardstown. No, I'm just kidding.
Our insurance company and the police department love our 6 o'clock closing time. Just so you know.
I'm sure they
There
do.
you go.
Yeah.
No, again, it absolutely, when a couple years ago, the festival made its money off of those offsite events because you couldn't sell tickets to the main festival. So you had to have Bourbon, Cigars, and Jazz and Let's Talk Bourbon and Flights of Bourbon at the airport with Sazerac. You had to have those to sell tickets because you couldn't sell tickets to the event. I built the core event that we sell tickets to, but now we want people out getting those different experiences. I mean, This is Mecca, right? I mean, the festival, Taste of Colorado, on Labor Day weekend was the first place that I saw this. It had this huge festival, and the main stage would be on at 2 o'clock, and then it would go dark. And then the festival would almost shut down, and people would go out into the town. And then at 6 o'clock, they'd open back up, and the stage was on, and they'd breathe people out and breathe people back in. So it wasn't about trying to keep everybody in one corral and trying to program it. It was get them in, give them an experience, kick them out, get them out in the town and get them back in, and it just works. And it doesn't matter how big of a, that was in Denver. I mean, we can do it in Bardstown. So
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah, there's definite the model
can.
that you're going for, I think, is a winning model. There's no doubt. I think Bardstown in that area, and it's not like there's a lack of distilleries to go out and breathe into. There's no doubt about it, and that part is just fantastic.
And Jeffrey, yes, you do need to leave at 6 when we close.
I might have to be fixing.
We'll drag him
I
out.
gotta fix the booth. I have to make it. I gotta be prepping it for the next day.
But where I was going with this was, in all seriousness, the whole media row, that whole section for podcasters, and that whole concept was you. So thank you. I mean, I did take notes. We built that for you, the Scotchy Bourbon Boys, and a couple of other people took advantage of it, but it's there and it's coming back this year because of you. So thank you.
Well,
Thank you. We
greatly
really appreciate
it. I mean, the amount.
My goodness.
I mean, the amount of people we got to meet and how much bigger that made us. We just look forward to we're going to be down at the barbecue, which we can't wait. We're ready to go there, and we're going to be ready to go at Kentucky Bourbon Festival, and we're going to bring our A game and watch you put your A game on. And I just think overall that's just amazing.
We're so looking forward to both events.
So we're almost ready. So Kate, I know you've just been there listening to all this, but you're with, Randy's your guy, and you watch him do all this, right? And I know you get all aspects of it. There's no doubt about it. You're the support. You're like, when he's having a bad day, you're there to help him. If
she's my support animal.
Yes. And the best part about it is, if someone parks crooked, you're there to help Randy, because that's probably the worst thing that happens to him in the Louisville area is the crooked parking, because it just drives.
Rate's going up.
Yeah. But so through all this, what's your favorite part, Kate, about it? Do you have a favorite that, the whole experience of what, both of you are learning about the industry? What have you come across that you love, whether it's what's made Randy better or something you've come across? What do you like about it the most?
I have enjoyed just kind of being at the house, and he has these intense days, and then he unloads everything on me, right? So I feel like I've learned everything that he said tonight. I probably could have said myself, because I've heard it so many times. And I think my favorite part is being at the festival, and while we're standing around kind of enjoying it, I get to turn and look, and shit hits the fan, and he immediately knows exactly what to say and how to handle it, and he moves right on. I think his experience makes that instinctive, right? Like he doesn't have to think any longer. He's got what 35 years of experience doing this. So when we would expect something to just blow up and go crazy, he immediately has an answer, and he rolls right along. You know, we've got torrential downpours and floods, and we've got to walk 5,000 people through here. Well, let's get a carpet. Let's just roll carpet out. And no one else would have thought of that. And he comes up with these brilliant ideas, and it's just so fun to kind of be there to watch it.
Do you remember the carpet?
Oh, yeah, the carpet
Yes.
was
Oh,
great.
yeah. No kidding. I mean, I get that. You understand. I watched the same way, and I was in awe of what he did. And when I found out about the carpet, I mean, he will never say this, but he was recognized by his board 100% after the festival was over, what he brought to the table. I mean, they had no idea he could bring this to the table. And then when he did execute the carpeting, because he's done so many festivals and he's dealt with so many problems, he knew, like you said, he knew exactly what to do. So I'm going to give him the ultimate compliment. I would love to call
You're going to make me cry.
the Aaron Rodgers of festivals, okay? But I'm not going to do that, because that freaking quarterback loses in the playoffs. They get the number 1 seed, and then he decides that he just doesn't want. So I'm going to call you. You're the Tom Brady.
The GOAT.
Yes, you're the Tom Brady, even though that kills me to say. But when you figured out 7 ways to win the Super Bowl, when most people can't even figure out one way to win it. So we appreciate everything
Aaron
that you
Rodgers
do.
is never going to be on our podcast.
No, I mean, Aaron Rodgers.
No, but
I just fried myself.
Yeah,
I guess
really.
so.
it is a team effort, and a lot of grace and forgiveness from the community and the people. They knew what we were dealing with. I mean, there were very few people that were coming in that didn't know the rain and all of that. So they gave us a lot of latitude. But probably one of my most cherished pieces, other than, and this, you would appreciate, when I left the state fair, they gave me this.
Yep.
An honorary. It's a real badge, but I've never pulled anybody over with it. But I cherish this because the police department, the Capitol Police, State Fair Park Police, gave that to me. And but what the board gave me was a 2-inch by 2-inch square cutting of that carpet that we had down there in the lawn,
Yeah.
added and framed. And it's like, thank you for saving the festival or something. No matter what I do or where I go, man, I've got some cool Churchill stuff back here and treasured things. But that little square carpeting represented last year, perfectly. So we learned from it, and man, I loved you guys for being friends. You've stayed in our house, and you've dropped everything and come down for a barrel pick, and I cherish the relationship that we have, and through everybody that's watching this too. So
Yeah.
I'm an SBB, so we're proud of it.
Awesome. We're so glad to have you. And one thing I wanted to say that I say to the distillers that we have on here, and it goes at least as much, if not doubly for you, is we realize that, here we are, and you've got not one, but 2 major festivals coming up this year, that probably tonight, you probably weren't saying, oh, I'm just sitting here doing nothing. Gee, maybe the Scotchy Bourbon Boys will interview me or something like that. We realize that you got an awful lot to do, but yet you set some time aside for us. And we can't begin to tell you how grateful we are for that.
Same
I
thing.
appreciate the audience. I mean, seriously, you guys, you've always taken care of me. So,
Oh, and we will continue to do
Absolutely.
our best.
and I know a lot of the people that are watching this, you're also rock stars. I mean, you guys have elevated what we're doing. So thank you.
Yes, by all
Yeah,
means.
we
Thank you.
We thank the people who listen
Yes,
to us. That's just
great listeners.
I mean, to finish it up, to be able to, after I take a picture last Tuesday with Connor in front, all of a sudden from behind, I hear Tiny, and I'm like, wait, what's that? Someone's calling, and then
Facts.
like, my son's listening to you. Can I take a picture? So I took my first.
I saw it.
Yep, you did, and it's just like, It's like, what? That's a lot of fun. It just, that's what it's been. That's what it's about, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's right. And that's probably is that the first time that you've had like that kind of like a celebrity? Because nobody recognizes me, honestly.
Actually, at the Bourbon
No,
Fest
it
this
happened
year,
at-
it was
It
insane.
was at the Jim
Well, yeah,
Beam dinner.
yeah, at the dinner,
At the Jim Beam dinner, there's this couple from Texas.
Alaska.
No, wait a minute. But first it was a couple from
Yeah,
Texas.
and then the couple.
And they said, "You guys are the Scotchy Bourbon Boys,
Yeah.
aren't you?"
Can we take
And
pictures?
it's like, yeah, they took pictures of us. Then we come to the next table, it's people from Alaska, and they knew us. But the thing that's amazing, they said, "There's Xavier." And they point to my wife. They go, "Oh, and that you must be Mrs. Xavier." It's like these people really follow us. So yeah, we kind of felt like celebrities. And we had the amazing thing was I was walking with Jeff, I was walking with other people sometimes. I had master distillers point to me as I'm walking, say, "Hey, how you doing?" They were, instead of me saying like I met them, I'm hoping to say hi, that maybe they remember me. They're doing that to me, which was just insane. It was really good.
Is Royce and Rebecca going to be Neely Family Distillery? Have they signed on?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
I love them.
Oh my God.
They're awesome. Oh my God, they're great people.
Have you gotten a chance to get there yet? To the
No.
Oh,
Oh, you
Randy,
have to.
Randy, you got to make the trip.
I know.
Oh, Cumberland does their whole like tour thing about what their family and the moonshining, and I mean the Neelys were in a family feud where everybody was just shooting everybody. It's like
that was just 3 years ago.
Yes. No, I mean it's just like there's no doubt. That's one Royce. I not only do I love and him, and he's doing such a great job, but I respect the shit of it.
Well,
and I will never cross.
But the thing that you got to say is, and we're not just saying it because we like them, they produce an outstanding product. Oh my God! And if you are an absinthe fan, Tiny and I are absinthe fans from way back, and I'm telling you, they make the best absinthe that I've ever tasted.
But just so you know, they won double gold again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And their absinthe is incredible.
All right. So that brings us to end of another podcast. Thank you very much, Randy and Kate. Hey, I think this. Yes. Don't always clap, but you guys.
This was a barn burner.
So
sorry for going over time.
No, we're not.
Okay.
What do you mean?
It's all Tiny's
We're
fault.
under 2 hours, so that's just normal for me half the time. You know what I mean? All right. So everybody, remember www.scotchybourbonboys.com. You can listen on all the major podcast formats, but when you're at that www.scotchybourbonboys.com, top right hand corner, hit the Patreon, support us. You can get Scotchy Bourbon Boys Glencairn's t-shirts and everything like that. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, we're everywhere. So thank you very much, everybody. Remember, good bourbon equals good times and good friends, and go out there and live your life dangerous.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. Show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Oh, don't ask why. For if we don't find the next whiskey bar, I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die. I tell you we must die.
We are done recording. All right. So
we're still on YouTube.
Just a little bit. Oh, okay.
Hey.
I thought that was fantastic.
It sure was.
Thank you, Roxy.
You're welcome.
Yeah, she can. We went off topic a lot.
She's like Julie, the cruise director on the Love Boat.
We could do
Yeah, there you go.
What the hell does that make me?
You're a gopher.
I was going to say your Fred Grandy is what I was going to say to him.
Oh, I could just take the hat off, right?
Mhm.
That was so fun. Thank you guys. That was
Oh,
awesome.
thank you.
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think we've been long.
So when are we getting invited up to your all's place?
Anytime. Hold on. Well,
Wait, we're on the way. We're packed. We're on the way. We'll see you in 5 hours.
well, I mean, Kate was close this weekend at Kings Island. Only you were like, that's like 2 hours from you, or an hour and a half from you, right?
How far away are you from Sandusky?
Cedar Point.
Cedar Point.
About an hour and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
She's going up to Cedar Point sometime.
Now we're all on a roller coaster.
On what?
Where does Nicole live?
I mean,
Yeah.
Cedar Point's awesome.
Mhm.
Well, so the kids, we went to Kings Island. They're now like incredibly obsessed with roller coasters. And the Cedar Point, they designed their roller coasters differently. So Ryan, my 6-year-old, is tall enough for every single roller coaster at Cedar Point.
6-year-old.
And,
Yeah.
and I'm the opposite. I probably I'm disqualified from 2 of the roller coasters because I'm too tall. It's the from the top of the strap to the bottom, it won't clamp down. That was kind of a bummer. But the one that's the coolest is the dragster. I mean, that's an insane roller coaster.
I don't do roller coasters that well, so if I come up, I have to have like somebody to drink with.
That's
Well,
me.
Hey,
You
I
can
do
drink me 'cause I
do
don't
roller
do
coasters. I
so-
do roller coasters really good, but the drinking trumps the roller
But
coasters.
no, see, I figured out because Great America up in Chicago was like,
Yeah, we went there many times.
and I went on like Batman the ride when it first came out, and you sat and your feet hung, and it was smooth and fast, and I love that. I didn't like the wood, the Eagle, which was
The
the
Eagle?
wooden rickety. I didn't like the Eagle because it was too rickety. So I get sick or nervous or whatever on the rickety. But if it's smooth and fast, man, I can go. So I'm not totally against
Which
it.
one
but
was it? The bull, the Raging Bull,
Raging Bull?
which was
Stand up.
insanely. No, Raging Bull was like their tall one. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And it was a metal roller coaster, so it was insanely smooth. And
Yeah.
I got it. I loved sitting in the front seat when you went over that top edge and all you saw was straight down, the adrenaline rush off that. I mean, it's kind of
And
like
everyone else behind you got your puke.
no, I don't puke on roller coasters. I just
Do
get,
you?
I am an adrenaline junkie where if I get on, if we go on all day and there's not a big crowd and I can go on, it's almost like some of the smaller roller coasters don't even do it for you. You're just like, I need to be on
Like the
that one.
demon.
Yeah, you just got to be
The
on the
demon-
certain
the
ones.
demon
that's the difference between a great quarterback and a person. It's like when they get off on the adrenaline, they love the adrenaline,
Off this chair.
opposed to people who don't like the adrenaline and it makes them scared. You know what I mean? All right, so
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop recording. Thanks everybody on
Bye,
YouTube.
everyone.
Thank you, YouTube folks.
And
The watershed story. A watershed moment might be pivotal, but it might also be quiet and fleeting. It could be a monumentous occasion, a cause for celebration, an enormous triumph, or a small daily victory. A watershed moment could be a rekindling or an observation or a gathering. Any opportunity to relish with friends and family. It's whatever you choose to cheers to, who you're gathered around, and whatever's worth celebrating. We founded Watershed Distillery on the principles of community in 2010. We wanted to live in, work in, and contribute to the community in which we grew up. We aimed to create spirits and stood apart in quality and character. Along the way, we set out to form a community of our own, one that could gather together to savor, celebrate, and enjoy good spirits and company. We've grown from a tiny little still and 2 guys in jumpsuits to a dedicated team of over 40 people and 2 much larger stills. If you're ever in the area, stop by so we can introduce you to our team and pour you some of our award-winning bourbon. Creating it was our watershed moment, but we want to hear about yours.